A very good afternoon and welcome to the Monday edition of Market View. My name is Lunglile Makakula. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you had a lovely weekend. This is the first edition this week of Market View. Thank you for tuning in. Last day in March, members of parliament urged government to consider controlling the sale of the deadly army worm Master 900 chemical following the increase in the number of people who have committed suicide by ingesting the chemical. The alarming number of people who have taken their lives by ingesting the poisonous chemical has recently been of great concern not only to MPs but members of the public as well. Former QNA MP Michael Masugu called for government's intervention after 7 people under his constituency died within a period of 4 months after ingesting Master 900. The former MP said this is now a pandemic. Each week, a lot of people die in the country by ingesting the substance, while some even feed the substance to their innocent children. Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Sydney Simelane, says the sale of Master 900 pesticide will now be restricted and regulated. He says a memorandum has been circulated to all staff in the Ministry of Agriculture, and that includes extension officers and rural development area to issue procurement permits to farmers who want to use the pesticide. This he disclosed during a detailed interview with business journalist Nelsiwe Nhlangamandla earlier today. Stay tuned for that interview. And then later, Sanel Sbia will connect with us for today's financial markets. For now, let's go straight to business news. And for our first story, the country is experiencing shortage of milk, a product by Lactalis Eswatini. In a press statement, the country manager Martin Hess says the shortage is beyond their control.
The country manager says the recent foot and mouth disease outbreak in Eastern Cape Province in South Africa has affected the importation of and other brands of milk as per government regulations in Eswatini. Lactalis Eswatini says they are in continuous consultation with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development in South Africa and the Department of Agriculture in Eswatini. They say they are confident that they will find a long-lasting solution in due course. We have also engaged the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture on what ways are in place to ensure milk sustainability in the country.
Once the FMD situation subsides in South Africa, we as the ministry are going to import dairy cattle directly into the country, which we are going to then give to the individual farmers that are interested in doing dairy production. And these cattle are not going to be given to them for free, of course, but the government is not going to charge them any excess amount. They will just pay for the recovery of what government has actually spent. So basically, we are working with the Eswatini Dairy Board to do a number of activities. The first one is that we need to train our farmers on how to take care of dairy cattle. One of the problems we have with dairy cattle is that when they actually produce their young ones, they don't last for a long time. They die at a very tender age. We have looked at this, and we've also involved Department of Veterinary and Livestock Services to make sure that the calves that come from the dairy cattle will also survive. And we have also started a process where we want to make sure that we will be able to produce more cattle even without the bulls that we so need. As a result, we have introduced a process called artificial insemination.
The PS continues to say milk might not be available for a while as Lactalis Eswatini continues to look for solutions to the milk shortage.
We have local companies in the country such as Lactalis. They are ordering milk from the Eastern Cape. Now, I want you to understand that for business purposes, ordering from another country means that you need to have special agreements that will enable you to get the milk from that particular province or even that particular farmer or supplier of the milk. Now, what happened is that South Africa told us that there has been an issue of foot and mouth disease in the Eastern Cape as well, which was our biggest supplier of milk. Then the situation changed completely because the milk that we were receiving from the Eastern Cape, we were using to produce umcenge milk. And the reason now we are not in a position to have umcenge, it is because we are no longer able to import milk from the Eastern Cape. This means that the companies that work or import milk from South Africa have to look at other provinces in South Africa where they can import the milk. What has happened now is that a number of companies have shifted to Gauteng province because the South African government has informed us that the Gauteng government is now free from foot and mouth disease.
Eswatini produces 20 million liters of milk per year locally, and yet the consumption is at 87 million liters per year. The rest is imported from South Africa. Latest statistics from the Eswatini Dairy Board for April this year shows that in 1 month, Eswatini imported 925,134 liters of milk. For Market View, Nelson Dlangamanda, Vumingo Sinzinisa, Mbabane.
And for international news, the EU depends on China for materials critical to the green transition, but wants to strengthen its own supply chain. One minerals producer is set to start processing lithium in Germany in 2024. What obstacles does it face in ramping up production?
Europe's path to a green future has a problem. Its industry needs resources. This new lithium processing plant in Germany could be key to diversifying supplies. To get ahead in battery production, resources like lithium are crucial. But chemical processing into battery-grade materials is tricky. China dominates refining of the alkali metal, and with it, the know-how for processing the material. But to break free of this dependence, Europe needs to build its own material supply chains. Here at AMG Lithium's Frankfurt laboratory, chemists constantly monitor and test the refining steps they're designed for processing lithium hydroxide. The scientists here have come up with ways to filter out contamination from the lithium the company will later refine on a larger scale. The processes here in the lab will later work one-to-one in the industrial process. Bitterfeld-Wolfen, a chemical industry town in Germany's east, a location AMG picked to set up its industrial production, with space to expand the initial capacity 5 times. They're still setting up shop here in what may become Europe's largest lithium refinery, where they're expecting to refine 20,000 tons of lithium hydroxide per year in the first phase. But as prices for the product crashed recently, investments are tough. The plant here received some public subsidies, and European governments pledged more money for building up the critical minerals sector. Recently, the European Union's Critical Raw Materials Act came into force, aiming to eliminate dependence in material supply chains. It sets targets for 2030 that 10% of materials should be mined in the EU, 40% refined within the bloc, and 15% recycled here. In total, no more than 65% of a single material should be sourced from one country alone. But despite the buildup of refining capacities, the amount of money pledged doesn't yet match the need. AMG's lithium refining plant in Germany is expected to make a dent in reaching those goals. They are starting to turn the tables on global materials supply chains. But they won't be able to walk it alone.
All right, it's 9 minutes after 10. That's it for our business news. After the break, we listen to Nelson's interview with the Principal Secretary, Sydney Simelane.
Sabadani ukuthi njengalokhu
Sibili sive sikhulume
welcome back. You're still watching Market View, the Monday edition. Well, it seems final. The sale of Master 900 pesticide will now be restricted and regulated. This has been revealed by the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Sydney Simelane, following an outcry from the nation as many people are now abusing the pesticide to kill themselves or their family members. A memorandum has been circulated to all staff in the Ministry of Agriculture, including extension officers and rural development area, to issue procurement permits to farmers who want to use the pesticide. Business journalist Nelson Ngamandla sits down with the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture for a detailed interview on the restriction.
Thank you for joining us, PS, on Market View. We have heard that you have started, the ministry is in the process to regulate the Master 900. Can you briefly tell us about that?
What we are doing here is a immediate and a quick response to the nation's request that we need to do something about Master 900 because it is being abused. The abuse of Master 900 has been raised in Parliament. It has been raised in a number of quarters. So our responsibility now is to make sure that we control this pesticide. What we are trying to do is to make sure that not everybody can have access to this pesticide. So what we will do is, one, in order for one to have access to the pesticide, he or she will have to get a special permit from the ministry. Of course, that permit will be given once you've answered certain questions that are of concern to us. Clearly, we want to know what you'll be using it for, and if you're a farmer, you might need to show us how you want to use it, or indicate or prove to us that you are a farmer, and then we will be in a position to give you the permit. It is a pity that this pesticide in particular was very effective for maize production. If you remember well, there was a time when we had a serious attack of the fall armyworm in the country. We tried every pesticide that we could use. It didn't work. The farmers started complaining and saying that these pesticides we are giving them are not working. It was not until we had access to the Master 900 that solved the problem. We were seeing a situation where our concerns on providing enough food, especially maize for the country, was becoming more like a dream but not a reality. But once we got the Master 900, things changed. Maize production in the country increased and we were really happy. So what we are also working on this time is to get an alternative pesticide that we are going to use that hopefully will not be that effective to people who abuse it, and then but still be effective for controlling pests in our maize.
I understand, PS, but maybe you can explain further to a farmer at home who is going to buy Master 900 today. Where do they get the permission? Are they going to get it at the ministry or maybe at different shops or suppliers where they are going to buy?
We still haven't finalized the way we are going to do it, because we could do it in two ways. The first way would be that we will tell all the shops that they will not give this pesticide to anybody unless it comes with a permit. So what that means is the people will have to come to the ministry to get the permit. The second option is that we can hand this process to the shops, which I don't think they would appreciate, which I don't think they would like. And we will have a concern if it is actually administered the way we want it to be done. So what is very likely to happen is that if somebody wants to buy a Master 900, they would have to come to the ministry, although that has not been finalized, as I've mentioned earlier on.
Businesses under the farming industry use a lot of pesticides, different pesticides. Are you thinking of extending the control to other pesticides that are used by farmers, dangerous pesticides?
One way to respond to that is this. The Ministry of Agriculture is not the only ministry that is responsible for livelihoods of people, if I may put it that way. We have realized that bringing up the Master 900 as a sector, agriculture, has contributed to some people abusing it and killing themselves. So the social ills that are going on in our various communities are discussed in a number of quarters. We have got to a point now where we involve the ministries that may have to deal with psychosocial issues among communities, and we have had meetings with them. This includes ourselves, Minister of Agriculture, this includes the Minister of Health, and other ministries that may be involved as well. This is looking at the overall welfare of the country, the overall welfare of our communities, the overall welfare of our citizens. We want to make sure that people don't get to a point that they are frustrated and stressed to a point where they want to kill themselves. So this solution will not come only from the Ministry of Agriculture, but we will have to combine efforts with the other ministries and make sure that Eswatini know that killing themselves is not a solution. So we are hoping that this process is going to continue beyond Master 900, because there's a number of other ways people that can use to harm themselves. And the important point here is that people have to be trained and taught that harming yourself is not a solution at all.
We understand where the ministry is coming from. We know that the country has lost a lot of lives because of Master 900. But I just want to know, PS, is there some sort of responsibility that is attached to the person that is going to buy Master 900? Just to say, you have bought Master 900, this is how you should use it. Maybe we shouldn't hear that someone else has got hold of the Master 900 and used it for the same purpose that you are trying to curb.
No, normally, we meet these businesses and we talk to them about other issues. This one will have to be at the forefront in this case. We need to appeal to them. We need to appeal to their consciences. We need to appeal to their business acumen. We need to talk to them and make sure that they really appreciate the problem of people committing suicide using our pesticides or our farming chemicals. I don't know how they will then communicate with people coming to buy these chemicals that this is the message we want to put across. But clearly there has to be a big campaign that we somehow work on and create the awareness, that committing suicide is really not a solution to problems that people have. We need the help from the Ministry of Health to assist us in providing alternatives.
What would you like to say, PS, to those farmers that would be entrusted with the lives of Eswatini, those who will be buying the Master 900? What would be your advice to them?
It's a very difficult situation. First of all, even the questions that we'll be asking the people to make sure that they will be using the pesticide for the right purpose cannot stop them from abusing, to be honest. At the same time, we realize that even once we have given the pesticide or maybe that particular permit to go and get the pesticide, we have no control thereafter. So what this means is that we are going to hope for the best and tell those farmers who are buying these chemicals to take good care of these pesticides, because they are very, very dangerous for people. This is something you can only hope it will not happen. There will be no abuse of the Master 900. But honestly speaking, a follow-up just to make sure that the farmer uses the pesticide for right purposes, and even his members of the family understand the purpose of this pesticide. It's a very, very big responsibility that we wish we could take care of as a ministry, but honestly speaking, it is beyond our capability.
Is the regulation already in motion, PS, and how fast can we expect the ministry to conclude any talks on the control of the pesticides if you haven't done so already?
We have a meeting today where we will be finalizing the decisions on how we are going to administrate this whole process. It's not a simple process. It might look simple, but we want to make sure we do it right, and we want to make sure that it is effective. So hopefully before the end of the week, or maybe next week, we should be in a position to announce that this is how now things will be done. Otherwise, the Honorable Minister has given us the big responsibility to make sure that we start the regulation process. So it will be finalized soon, and then we will request our Honorable Minister maybe to make another statement explaining how the process is going to be done.
Thank you so much, PS, for joining us on Market View. We are hoping that this will go a long way in terms of saving the lives of Eswatini.
All right, that was business journalist Nelson Ngamandla having an interview with Principal Secretary Sydney Isimilane, basically explaining or speaking to us about solutions that the ministry has come up with to decrease or curb suicide cases through the ingestion of Master 900. Let's go on for a break. Nasbuya, we look at financial markets today.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
Welcome back at 23 minutes after 2. You're still tuned into Market View, the Monday edition. We now connect with Sanel Sbia, in-house economist, to give us today's financial markets. Have a good afternoon, Mr. Sbia, and welcome to Market View this afternoon. Let's go through the markets today. Perhaps we can start with international markets. There are fears that the U.S. might be slipping into a recession through global markets. What's happening in the USA?
A good day, Lulet. Good afternoon to the viewers. Yes, the numbers that came out of the US last week in terms of the jobs data and in terms of, the manufacturing or purchasing the purchasing managers index has shown that there's actually been a further slowdown in the US economy. So what we saw as well was unemployment reaching 4.3% in the US in the month of July. So that's now sent fears of a recession all across the US market, such that we have seen major losses across all indices. We have seen, both the Dow, S&P, and Dow Jones 500 losing all above 1% due to those recessionary fears. So now there's issues of, the talks of whether the easing of monetary policy will come, type of a too little too late type of scenario, whether are we going to see the markets being driven into a recession, purely because we've had interest rates up high for a very long time. So we are just waiting to see how the Feds are going to try and salvage this, and we are still waiting GDP data to come out to show whether we are going to have these 3 consecutive contractions in GDP. But now markets are along those fears, and we're seeing, investments shifting from equities to bonds, just as a bit of a safe haven for when the market goes into recession.
Yeah, so still on international markets, moving on to the Asian markets, Japanese stocks collapsed today. Could there be worries of a recession as well in Asia?
Oh yeah, when you look at the Nikkei, it actually lost. That's the biggest loss we've seen on the Nikkei ever since 1987 during Black Monday. We've not seen this much of losses happening in the Nikkei markets. But interestingly, when you look through the Asian markets, you also see that the Hang Seng also lost, and it's way below that 17,000 mark now. So that's a market that's been struggling to retain pre-COVID type of trades. And so now with these recession fears rippling through the US, that has also now caught a bit of the Asian markets attention. And then also with in Japan, again, when you go back to the Nikkei, there's also issues of the weakening yen. Ever since Japan went on this positive interest rate streak, then the yen, the Japanese yen has been weakening, month on month, and then markets are also trying to price that in. Thank you.
Yeah, so it seems international markets are not doing quite well today. What's happening in the European markets, Lumuhl?
Oh, yeah, same thing. European markets are also, trapped in those recessionary fears. And when you compound that with overall investor sentiment in the Eurozone region, a study released yesterday did show that overall investor confidence in the Eurozone region is actually at the lowest, at all-time lows. And then now you compound that with the German elections happening, when we know that Europe's biggest economy has been failing to actually show signs of positive growth, where we're going to find growth within that market. So now with those recessionary fears in the US, they've also now been trickling into the markets in Europe. And then in London, we know there is also an issue with, the anti-immigration type of protests that are rippling through that market. There's a lot of uncertainty within the markets right now. Thank you.
All right, so let's move on to currencies, commodities, and then the stock exchange. The Lilangeni seems quite steady today, trading at 18 Malangeni 62 cents. Take us through currencies, the exchange rate, Lumuhl.
Thank you, Lulu. So what we are seeing in terms of the exchange rates is we are going back to the levels we last saw before the GNU. So right now we are returning, slowly approaching we're at 1862 days, so we're slowly, gradually approaching the 19 mark, and we've seen already on the euro we are above the 20 mark. So that's actually on the background of this overall that this recessionary fears that are most feared for the world's biggest consumer economy. We know what that would mean. And what that we've also seen happen is there's a shift from, equities to bonds. So once that happens, we are seeing, bonds are purchased in the currency of the country that has issued that bond. So we are seeing a lot of, that's why we are seeing this type of shifts happening with our Lilangeni weakening a bit across all major currencies, even against the Japanese yen. You can see we are now in that 7 region, and really it seems the yen is getting more stronger compared to our Lilangeni, because there's those recessionary fears happening in the market, and then there's also the moves that have been implemented by Japan to try and prop up the yen.
All right, we have less than a minute, Mr. Sbiya. Let's quickly go through the commodities as well as Johannesburg and Eswatini Stock Exchange.
All right, thank you. So when we look at the commodities, we can see gold is there slightly unchanged, purely because markets are searching for safe havens right now because of those recessionary fears. And when you look at Brent crude oil, we can see that the talks of potential recession in the US have actually hit the price of Brent crude, and it's down to the 75 mark, purely because there is approach where we forecast weaker demand should the situation stays as it were. But at the same time, we are also worried about the tensions that are brewing in the Middle East. They might push the price of gold, price of Brent crude oil just a bit up. And then when we move into the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, we can see that it has also continued selling off, just like global markets, and we're now at the 78,000 mark, while we are waiting to see what is going to happen in terms of the monetary policy. And now we're going to try prop up the US economy to get us back into a positive growth path. And then in the Eswatini Stock Exchange, we realized we still haven't had any movements. Probably we'll have movements come earnings season in October. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks so much, Mr. Spear, for that analysis today for financial markets. And that's it for our program for today. Thank you for tuning in. This is Market View. If you've just tuned in, worry not, you can still watch this episode on our YouTube page, Eswatini TV. We'll see you tomorrow at exactly 2 p.m. Enjoy the rest of your day.